Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a stained glass LED garden ball. Now this is a larger ball than I've made in the past, and it's pretty intricate. First of all, I started out with a 5-inch diameter silicone ball, and I wrapped it around, as you can see, with 12 gauge copper, bare copper wire. I had some used for some other project that I was working on that didn't turn out, so that's why there's some little knobs on it here and there. But basically I just wrapped and wrapped and wrapped until I had a nice kind of a uneven coil wrapping around my ball. Now this silicone ball, as you can see, is full of stuffing, and then I have some clear plastic at the end that is capping off the end so that my stuffing doesn't get all yucky with all the flux and stuff. Now what I'm adding right now are some mosaic tile pieces. They're glass pre-cut that you can buy in lots of different places. I'll add some information on where you can get them in the description page. But right now I'm just adding them here and there. I got a whole bunch of blue ones that I liked, and I'm using half of the width of a 7/32 inch wide copper, black backed copper foil is what I'm using to wrap around all these mosaic tiles. And I'm just soldering them here and there. Now the nice thing about using a silicone ball as a base for this is that I can put pins in it, as you can see, and that's really handy to be able to hold things when I can't hold them with my hand. So you can put pins right into the ball to hold things, and it also is a nice sturdy shape. And then when I'm done, I can take the ball out, and I'll show you how I do that also. Now what I'm doing right now is I am using needle nose pliers, round needle nose pliers, and I am making different types of coils, and I'm going to flatten these coils out, and I'm going to use them as decoration on my ball. So what I usually do with this type of project is I make a whole bunch of, like, whatever the shape is. So those triangles, diamond shapes, I made a whole bunch of those so that I had a whole bunch to work with. I didn't have to stop when I'm working to go make more. So what I like to do is just make a bunch of these things. This right here is 22 gauge, and I think I used some 18 gauge copper wire for my coils. Now you could use pre-tinned copper wire, but actually for this project I decided I was going to keep it the copper color, so I'm not going to cover everything solidly with solder. Like if I wanted to patina it with black patina, I would have to make everything tinned. I would have to tin it with the solder or use tinned wire, which is great. It works very nicely. And in fact, if I had used tinned wire for this, it would have taken the copper patina also. But the copper wire, the bare copper wire, is considerably less expensive than the tinned copper wire. So, you know, you have to decide what you want to use. And I only use the tin stuff when I really need to. And as you can see, I made a whole bunch of them. So I made a whole little tub of them. Another thing I needed to make for my project was I bought these pre-made round flat. They're really flat. They're not domed. They're just flat mosaic type glass. And what I decided was I only want to go on the edge of these glass circles. So I am cutting my 7/32 inch black backed foil into thirds this time, because that's about the thickness of these glass circles. And I'm going to actually just put the glass circle on the edge. I'm not going to overlap the top and bottom at all. And this way I will have these nice perfect glass circles, which I will attach, but I'm not going to have a lot of foil overlapping on each side to attach to. So whenever you do something like this, where your foil's not really wrapping around your glass or whatever you're using in your project, you want to be aware that you really need to push the foil really smooth into the glass to make a nice connection there, because there's really nothing else that's going to be holding it together. So I usually will foil a bunch, and then I'll pick them up and just burnish them. I usually use a black, I think it was called a pointer tool that I got on Amazon, and it's plastic, and I use that to just smooth it down. If it does overlap a little bit, I will smooth the edge and the face of it all the way around on each one. And yeah, it takes some time. And again, I would do a whole bunch of these. So I would have like a nice cup full of these glass circles all ready for my project. So when I start soldering, I won't have to stop and go and do more. Actually, with this project, I did actually have to buy more. I mean, I say that I like to, have a whole bunch on hand, but I did run out of the dark blue, and I did have to buy a whole nother container of them, and now I have even more of them. But I usually like to make sure that I have really more than I think I will need before I even start the project. So as you can see, these come in a multicolored container, and there's a lot of nice colors there, but yeah, you can't just buy like one color. At least I haven't been able to find a place where you can. Now what I've done is, as you can see, I have all the little diamonds soldered on in a kind of a pattern, and then I also soldered on some of the dark circles. Right now, I am putting bars between some of the diamonds, because I wanted to kind of fill in some of those spaces. So I cut pieces of 12 gauge copper wire, made sure they were pretty straight, and I cut them pretty small, and I am soldering them in kind of as a little bar between the diamonds to make a design. I'm doing this because on the dark blue circle area, that's where I'm going to start using my little swirlies that I showed you guys that I made. And I didn't want to have those guys have swirly guys and have nothing in the triangle area. But I also decided that, well, triangles are really kind of straight. They don't have curves. So I think the designs inside the spaces will also be straight. Now, one thing that was a little bit tricky with this was they'd like to move when I was soldering them in, because they are so little that they heat up so much when you try to solder them in. The whole piece of copper heats up, and then it wants to move. So yeah, it's a little tricky sometimes to hold it in place while I'm doing it. But lucky, since there's really no exact rhyme or reason when I put these in, that if they didn't go exactly where I thought they should go when I started putting one in, it's not the end of the world because I wanted them kind of haphazardly all over the place. So I was fine with that. When I was soldering earlier, you might have wondered what kind of gloves I had on. I was wearing silicone gloves, and it's really handy to have silicone gloves because they help keep the flux and stuff away from your hands, and it also they act as kind of a barrier for heat. Now it is a little bit trickier to control holding things when you have gloves on, of course, as anyone who's worn any kind of gloves knows, but it does help. You know, if you get a little piece of solder on your hand, you're not going to get a burn as easily. They're not completely heat resistant, but they definitely help. Now I have added some thinner silicone gloves that I've gotten on Amazon before. They're actually used more for cosmetic softening of the skin type usage, but they do work for this. The ones I usually use I got on Temu because I can't find them on Amazon. So there's a variety of different ones that I've got on Temu that work. What I try to find are ones that are not really floppy and big. Like I've gotten kitchen ones, you know, like you can to wash kitchen dishes that are 100% silicone, but they're really just too big and bulky, and I can't hang on to the tweezers and everything with them, so that doesn't really work. But I have found different ones, and I'm always looking for, you know, different suppliers for silicone gloves. I want to be able to wear them a number of times before I have to throw them away. So I don't want, you know, complete disposable gloves. I don't expect them to be completely disposable. I think there's maybe on this video where one pair ripped a little bit, but that happens, and I have at times even like worn two different gloves if the holes are in different spots. You know, as long as it's protecting what I need. I often will wear gloves just on the left hand and not on the right, because the left hand's usually what I'm using to hold the product. As you can see, I'm using tweezers. Now the trouble with tweezers are that they do sometimes solder shut, because they are metal, and you know, you are heating up stuff with solder. So yeah, sometimes I have to heat them up again and then pry them open. But you know, I need to have something to hold my swirlies. Now I don't want to pin them. I could have pinned them on, because I've showed you can pin right into this ball. That's great. But I kind of wanted them at the surface of the top of the ball, the blue circle, glass circle, not at the bottom. So that's why on those that go between them, I didn't want to pin at all. Now, as you can see, I am now blending my my circle area into just an area of swirly coily guys. So that's why I wanted to have coily guys in between the blue circles, and I wanted them to kind of blend out into the next area of this ball. I try to have a lot of coils that will allow connections, because that's what's going to hold it together, is where the little spirally guys touch each other. That's where I'm going to put the solder joint. And remember, I made a whole bunch of these so I could just dig through my my pile. I kind of had to bend them so they went around the circle a little bit. And as you can see, this one is a little bit thicker. This was an 18 gauge wire here. So some of them were the 22 and some were 18. I wanted kind of a variety. And actually, when it was all said and done, it really didn't look like there was much of a variety. They pretty much all looked the same. But the idea originally was that some of the swirlies would be thinner than others. But it didn't really read that much that there was a difference. So maybe next time I'll do them all the same. I don't know. But they're kind of fun to make, the little swirls. As you can see, I am going to leave gaps in this project between the glass and the wires, and I'm going to have LED lights shining through them, so at night, you know, you'll see the LED lights, but not only shine through the glass, but they will also shine through the spaces. So as you can see, I've added quite a lot of those. I finished filling that whole area. And now the next area I'm going to fill with triangles. So I have diamond shapes, I have circles, and I have now triangles. So, you know, I just wanted to have a variety of shapes. I decided to keep it all in the blues. So everything on this project is going to be blue, and it's going to have copper for the patina and the wires, and that's my color scheme for this. So I ended up doing these kind of like teeth, because there's going to be like one row on one side and then one row on the other. Where they meet, they will be soldered. But if they don't meet, then they'll just be, I'll just fill them with other bars again, like I did on the other area. So it's kind of a repeating. You're going to be adding flux and then solder. And then flux, put a little guy down, and then you're going to add flux and solder. Now these mosaic shapes that I have here, as you can see, I did wrap around the shapes. Now, I didn't have to. I used a half of the width, as I said, of the 7/32 inch foil, and then wrapped and centered the foil and wrapped around the edges. Now, I could have used less and then just done the actual edge and not wrapped around at all. But that's not the way I have decided to do my mosaic pieces. It's also a little bit trickier to wrap evenly around a flat circle like the dark blue circles. It's just the way it is. Now, as you can see, I actually used pieces of wire and stabbed it into my silicone ball to hold this original coil of copper wire. So I just almost like a staple. So I'm using them to hold it together while I was, you know, waiting for the soldering to get done. So I have to pull them out every so often. I found that was a really great way to keep the original wire, like skeleton, you might want to call it, together before I soldered. Now, as you can see, yeah, I had, since this was an old piece of wire, it does have these other knots and stuff in it that I have to go around. Now, I could have unsoldered those little knobs of of wire that were already on my skeleton before I made this, but I didn't think it was necessary, so that's why I just kept it the way it is. So as I said, these are looking kind of like teeth, kind of coming from both directions. I also, when the original wrap of 12 gauge wire got really close together, I would then fill those up. Now this section, I decided to use a lighter blue, and instead of putting coils in between, I said I'm just going to fill the gaps in between each one with solder. And basically what you need to do is add some solder and then let it cool. And then add some solder and let it cool, because it obviously doesn't really want to bridge the gap. It keeps getting these bubbles and holes in it and stuff. So if it's cooled down some, then you're only heating some of it, and it seems to fill in faster than if you try to like fill the whole thing with one hot bunch of solder. Because this is round, I had to keep rolling the ball so that gravity would help fill these gaps. You can see I'm wearing silicone gloves on my left hand right then, so that, because it was getting a little hot, especially when I'm adding that much solder. And if you're filling in an area, it's going to take quite a hunk of solder to fill in an area. So yeah, you might not want to fill in a lot of areas with solder because it's going to get a lot heavier, it's going to be more expensive. So it's really up to you. You could, of course, fill the area with foil and then just put solder on top of the foil. So there's other ways to do it. You don't have to just use liquid solder to fill an area. So as you can see, between the teethy guys, I put some more of those bars between them. And when the coil, the major frame coil itself, when they were close together, I filled some of that with solder and some of it I left open. I did go through and added more solder here and there to the copper, either the copper foil or the wires. Now, I don't have to make this solid because I'm not going to patina this black. Or if I wanted to keep it silver, then yeah, I'd have to solder the whole thing to keep it the silver color. But because I'm going for the copper color when I'm finished, the patina will patina anything that's already been soldered. It'll turn that the copper colored, and then the stuff that's already copper colored will stay copper. Now, it's not exactly the same amount and color of copper, but it's close. And this is a garden decoration, so generally people are not going to be like looking at it within a couple inches of its life. So if it's a little different tint of copper, it's not going to be a problem at all. So yeah, as you can see, I'm just adding a little bit more solder here and there to make things a little bit less that's, you know, I didn't want to have a whole lot that's hasn't been coated with solder, but I didn't want to like be really anal retentive about it and try to make it like perfectly covered like I have on a lot of projects. And of course, whenever I heated up any of these rods or swirls or anything, they would start heating up too much and then they would start moving again. So that's always a fun thing. So now when you think that, yes, it looks pretty good, you need to wash it as thoroughly, scrub it as thoroughly as possible. And now I need to take the stuffing out of my silicone ball. So that's basically what that was a bunch of like stuffing you'd use to stuff a doll or something, a polyfill type of stuffing. And as you can see, there's another wire right there that was used to hold it together originally. And I'm just going to cut any wires off that I've neglected to pull out while I was making my ball. I tried to pull them out as I went because I knew eventually I'm not going to want them there. Luckily it's a pretty tough ball that I'm using, and I could just like pull the daylights out of it, and it finally came out. And yes, you can use these balls over and over again. So that's what's cool about that. And oh, a piece of glass fell out of my project. So I needed to find where the glass was and if it's going to be visually obvious if I don't put it back in. Yeah, I kind of do want it. So I figured out where it really goes. Now I could have like cleaned off everything again, and then I could have glued this in. There's lots of ways you can make it work, but I decided I'm not gonna glue it in. I'm gonna try to solder it in. So what I'm doing is I'm going to just add extra solder to both sides of it and hope that it'll be sandwiched between some solder. Now I could have cleaned it thoroughly and foiled it again, because obviously the foil had fallen off of it, so the foil is there. So I could have done that, and I've done that before, where you take your glass out. I've even heated up the original area and taken the old piece of foil off, foiled the glass again, and then put it in. But this worked pretty good, so I just added a little bit of solder from one side to another to kind of sandwich it in. Now I am using copper patina in a spray bottle, and I am spraying around a light coating of spray on my ball, and then I'm going to scrub it in with a toothbrush. And this is what it looked like when it was done. It looked very coppery, pretty evenly coppery. And then at night, that's the one down on the right side, with some LED lights in it. It lit up and looked very pretty. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll be making some more. It's just really fun to make these garden balls. Bye-bye.